So, like all the other times we talk about guys that are free agents and do not have an NHL home, I always have to preface these videos by saying that if they sign a contract between the time I'm speaking into this microphone and the time the video is public on YouTube, then hey, that's just a disclaimer. It is possible that this player, this athlete, signs elsewhere and completely derails the topic that I am about to go over, but today we are going over the legend himself, Mr. JVR, James van Riemsdyk. Because at the time of recording this audio, JVR is currently a free agent. He's 35 years old, 6'3", 207, left-handed left-wing guy, signed on till the end of this most previously completed season with the Boston Bruins. Now, it was a pretty good year, I would say, for JVR with the Bees. 38 points, 71 games played, 11 goals, 27 assists. You gotta remember that he was just 2 seasons removed from a 24-goal year with the Philadelphia Flyers. His career has honestly been pretty alright. I don't think anybody would complain about JVR and what he was able to accomplish as a member of the Flyers and the Leafs. Although, of course, we recognize that his time in Toronto was filled with the best production he has ever had, as well as the highest expectations. That's neither here nor there, though. Everybody kind of remembers JVR's time as a member of these Leaf teams. Joffrey Lupul, Tyler Bozak, Phil the Thrill, lots of guys whose names were cemented in 2010's Toronto hockey history. But JVR is still a more than capable NHL player, who did score himself quite a few points in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. 5 points, 11 games played, playing for his third NHL team in Boston. He then became a free agent, and he has since signed nowhere. The thing is now, he's 35, of course, so it's not going to be the easiest to project JVR into an NHL lineup, especially at this point. It's September 13th, it's already been a while, and the guy is more or less going to have to sign a PTO. He's going to have to go over to a team that already has their roster set in place and try to beat out one of the bottom to middle six caliber scoring forwards to find himself onto a team. That is what Chris Johnston went out there and reported earlier 2 days ago on Twitter. Multiple NHL teams continue to show interest in James van Riemsdyk. He's one of the few remaining left-wing options available, and he is still viewed as a high-character veteran that is expected to land a PTO before training camps open next week. So, hey, maybe by the time this video is even uploaded, JVR has a contract. Next week is going to be in like 3 days. So 3 days, 2 days. So there certainly is an opportunity here for JVR to get things done quickly. But the reason we are making this video in particular, you already know from the title, from the thumbnail, is because we might have actually been on the cusp of seeing a JVR reunion to the team that he was so iconically linked to for a good chunk of the 2010s. Let's go over onto this article on TheLeafsNation.com from Michael Mazet from earlier yesterday. Because a report says that JVR and the Maple Leafs had mutual interest prior to the Max Pacioretty PTO that was signed just a few days ago. Let's scroll down in this piece and read what Michael Mazet has to say. He ends up citing a Chris Johnston report on the most recent edition of the Chris Johnston Show. He noted that while the Leafs may decide to circle back in the event of injuries at training camp, it is more likely that the ship has sailed on JVR donning the blue and white once again. He was certainly interested in coming back to Toronto, Johnston said. I think the Leafs were at least open to the possibility because of what I had said. They've been looking to address their left-wing option. But they had Pacioretty rated or ranked ahead of JVR, and so I think that ship has now sailed. Who knows? Injuries, as we say. You spend the whole summer planning what the team could look like, and then 2 days into training camp, something that could happen changes the winds. But certainly, I think that there was some mutual interest between JVR and the Leafs, and they ended up getting Max Pacioretty instead. I just don't see room for both of those players in their lineup, where they're at their careers, and all that right now. The rest of the article goes out there and just kind of sets up the rest of the context here. Oh yeah, JVR is good, he was familiar with the organization, and he was pretty alright, highly productive with the Bees last season. But with all this in mind, I wanted to make a video shining a bit of a spotlight on that idea, because just thinking about JVR going back over to Toronto, that is a crazy idea. Just thinking about what JVR in 2024 could have brought this Toronto Maple Leafs team is astounding. 6 years, 6 seasons past what was a 54-point year. Let's go back over to this 2017-18 team and see whom else was on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mitch Marner, Matthews, Nylander. Okay, so they were kind of bleeding into that territory of modern-day Leaf stars. But you also had Nazem Kadri, Morgan Rielly, okay, he's still there, Jake Gardiner, Patty Marleau, Bozak, Hyman, Connor Brown. Then if you go back into, let's just say 2016, we'll go into one of the better JVR years. P.A. Parento, okay, no, JVR didn't play too many games in that one. Let's go one more further back. There you go, James van Riemsdyk, second most productive player on the Maple Leafs 10 years ago, with Phil Kessel, Nazem Kadri, and Cody Franzen. What a great season this was for the Toronto Maple Leafs, totally not a terrible year. It's why they finished 4th overall in the NHL Draft in 2015 and ended up getting Mitch Marner. But either way, what I also wanted to turn some attention to was the idea of the Toronto Maple Leafs choosing Max Pacioretty over JVR. This was posted onto the Toronto Maple Leafs subreddit earlier yesterday too, and I wanted to read some of the thoughts that Leafs fans have in regards to this situation. It's the same article we had just looked at. JVR and the Maple Leafs had mutual interest prior to Max Pacioretty's PTO. I honestly would have preferred JVR, the top comment said. I would have preferred JVR so much more. I miss him. Chewing that green mouthguard as he taps in a Rielly slapper from the point. Oh yes, baby. Could maybe get both? This is where you start to think about the possibilities, but JVR on a PTO, whoever is less washed between him and Max gets signed, that would be funny. Really, really funny. Two veterans battling it out for a final spot that will inevitably be challenged by Nick Robertson as well. Lots of competition going on for left wingers in Toronto, you could say, if JVR ends up coming back. I think JVR takes his services elsewhere. The left wing spot was shallow, and then in a matter of like 10 days, the Maple Leafs added Robertson and Pacioretty. I would have preferred JVR than net front presence on the power play too. That would have been welcomed instead of another perimeter shooter. JVR would be good for that, but I would much rather see Nyes get a chance to grow into that role. Scrolling over to some of the other comments here, a JVR Bozak Kessel 4th line. That is crazy, man. That is absolutely crazy. In fact, I want to make a video about Phil Kessel later today. Not necessarily because he was a Maple Leaf that's still unsigned, but because of the Canucks factor. That actually sounds like a great idea, and there is good fuel to go out there and make a Kessel commentary, so maybe we're gonna shift gears a little bit and talk about that later in today's show. But for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about how JVR and the Maple Leafs in 2024 almost happened. There was mutual interest here until Max Pacioretty signed his deal. And honestly, if you wanted to compare the two 1-to-1, there is a reasonable enough argument to say that JVR, 35 years old, coming off of this point production, could be seen as more valuable than Pacioretty, 35 years old, coming off of a season where he didn't play much and then had 23 points in 47 games on a decent to mid Capitals team. Honestly, it's one or the other. You can make an argument either way, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about what JVR and Toronto could have looked like in 2024-2025. If Brad Treliving just went all fantasy booking mode, he could have done the JVR, Phil Kessel, Tyler Bozak thing. He could have brought them all back. But that is, of course, a huge ghost of Christmas past that is just being reignited because fans like to speculate and make funny, dumb proposals rather than something that you could actually see happening. So to hear that JVR was actually potentially on the cusp of happening, that's already video worthy. I wanted to talk about this in this video today. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.